Ready? Ready. Ready to go. Okay. So welcome everybody. Thank you to be there. I'm Silvio Levi. You know, I'm one of the founders of Exans. I'm the director of Essencional Study Center. And according to what we made all over the years, since a long time, is to monitoring in some manner the market, what's happening, what is the trend in the future. And thanks to the colleague on my left, so Marco Ricchetti, Karen Marin, and Chiara Toniello. And so I try to, not to lose too much time, we try to identify some key aspects of the market and try to analyze on different manner everything, hoping to give you an idea what should be the future, what we have to work on, and what are the perspectives in the future for whatever represent Exans and the discovery and the research and development of fine perfumery. Or, as someone told me, I remember that we have plenty of good perfume, but not so many wonderful perfumes. We do hope to find much more wonderful perfumes. Thank you so much. So I'll leave my colleagues to start.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. For those who don't know me, I'm Chiara Toniello. I'm in charge of project management of Essencional activity. Essencional is a working group of people that promotes artistic perfumery. We cooperate with the Exans for the definition of the event that are here in conference room. We deliver studies and researches and surveys about artistic perfumery. We are present online with a website, essencional.com, in which you can find original article promoting retailers and brand of this industry. And we offer also consulting services for brands who want to go under an impartial assessment in order to find improvement in the field of their unique selling proposition, their brand image, and their product offer. So if you are curious about us, please check out our website. You'll find us in the office too, near the conference room. And now, before starting, I would like to thank everyone that make it possible. Silvio Levi above all, the other panelists of this Essencional Observatory, Karen Marin and Marco Ricchetti, and other Essencional contributors, Lawrence Arrigo-Clove, Ermano Picco, and Leata Patera. And now over to Marco Ricchetti that is talking about acquisitions of this year.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Marco, alzalo un po'. No, alza un po' il microfono qua.
Thank you also from my side to be here and to have invited me to this presentation, to this conference. I'm an economist, so I will look at the topics regarding the perfumery from a very specific point of view. Talking about numbers and statistics, and hope that it can be shed some light on conversations and discussions that are quite common during these times in the sector, and especially this time I will talk about the topic of acquisitions in the sector. Why I've been asked to address this point? It's quite easy. There is a great interest at the moment about not only perfumery in general, but artistic perfumery. Quite often we talk about the new interest of consumers, or the increasing interest of consumers on this market, but we have another type of agents in the market that is quite focusing on this sector, that are investors. I will show you in a moment how many mergers and acquisitions we got in the last few years. So it is a really hot topic. But then when you have something very a game changer, let's call it this way, in the business, there are always different point of views. Someone see the new situation as an incredible opportunity or a signal of good things. Others are complaining about the changes that's in the core, in the roots of the sector. These changes can introduce. So is merger and acquisition fever a good news or bad news? Well, I don't know. I'm not a specialist in merger and acquisitions, but let's see if numbers can help us to disentangle a bit this topic. Well, let's first start with some very general consideration because diving into the topic. Well, what does the argument of those that see this fever for acquisitions as a nice point, as a good news? So let's look at first at the light side of the topic. Well, of course, for a brand which is acquired, there is a huge potential of market expansions. First of all, because generally speaking, when a big fund or a big player make an acquisition of a medium-sized or small performance brands, they provide finance, very simple. So many of the limitations that are typical of micro, small, and medium enterprises suddenly becomes not an obstacle anymore. It provides more attitude to risk because you have more financial stability. There are quite interesting, let's say, opportunities also for the investors. If the investor is a big company, is a multinational that is already operating in the business, well, the small and medium-sized brands that are so charged with identity and competence can play some sort of R&D role within the big company. And then, of course, there are a lot of opportunity in terms of synergies. I mean, again, very trivial. If the company that makes the acquisition has a huge or a good distribution system, suddenly the small company can find himself in maybe 1,000 stores around the world. That's quite interesting. Well, what is the dark side? And generally speaking, this is what is called the killing of the sectoral allure. I don't need to spend so much words on it. It's quite clear. The new brand, the acquired brand lose the identity, but also the allure because, well, synergy means that you are in 1,000 new stores, but it makes the perfume something easy to find. So when you go outside, when you go out of the niche, and you become some sort of a staple on the market, well, things change a lot in terms of competitive advantage. Of course, it can mean compromise on quality, big volumes. If you grow, you have to change completely the way you produce things. And then, of course, there is a good old point that when someone buys you, you have to align with his own strategy. You are not you're not guiding anymore your company in a way, even if you remain within the company. Well, so we made an analysis of 28 companies that have been acquired during the last 20 years. But we will see that talking about the last 20 years really means to talk about the last few years, as we will see in a moment. These are the companies we have evaluated. Some of them are being bought more than once. So the deals we will be looking at are more than 27. Well, a few caveats that I have to. Of course, companies with financial data tend to be larger company, and we'll see what does it mean. Then we've been using from different sources information, mostly, not only, but mostly from official financial data, so the financial documents. Not always this data can, let's say, reflect or mirror the real changes in the company. If you put out from the consolidation boundaries a part of the company, this can change the financials. So this is we need to take these numbers with care. Then some of the conclusion I will be reaching in a few moments can be very investor dependent. So opportunities for grow with an investor can be different depending on is the investor an investment fund, is a big multinational of the beauty, is a specialized operator. So that requires more details, but let's see that for the sake of providing you with a big picture, I think this is enough. Well, what we are talking about, this is the calendar starting 25 with the first acquisition we recorded. It was Acqua di Parma, purchased by the LVMH group, and then it's quite simple to see how in the latest year we got an incredible explosion and growth in terms of number of deals. In the first 10 years of our calendar, we recorded 5 acquisitions. In the next 5 years, the acquisitions were 11. And then in the last 4 years, plus 3 months, because we got a couple of acquisitions also in the last few months. And I know that Karen was compulsing to see if there's something new today. Nothing new?
Nothing new today.
Okay, we are still at 13 acquisitions. So you see how impressive is the growth. So what are the investors? You see that there are different types of investors. We have classified in 5 different categories: investment funds, multinationals of the beauty business, companies. I mean, just one indeed that made several operations. That is something of a mix between beauty and fashion. Is Puig, just not to make names. Then we have luxury brands from the fashion business and a few specialized investors that either provide services for the companies that they have acquired, for example, retail services that are quite interesting as a point that Silvio always remind to me. So you see, talking about acquisition is an umbrella concept. Acquisitions are very different depending on who is making the investment. This is one point that every company that want to, every small brand or medium brand that want to move in this direction have to take into account. According to your strategies, your objective, you need to become attractive for a different type of investor. So what are the characteristics of the companies that have been acquired over the 27 or so companies that we used? First of all, what is the age? So how many years have passed by the foundation of the company to the moment of the acquisitions? We have a minimum. None of the companies that have been considered had less than 6 years. But the median, you know, statistically the median is the value that cut the sample in 2 equal parts is 14 years. Then we have some extreme cases such as Yves Saint Laurent Beauty or Liptic, etc. That had a very long story. But anyway, so first conclusion we can have acquisition are something that require time to mature in a way. You cannot just be as it is usually, for example, in the IT sector or in the internet, 2-3 years, and then you can set at billions your company. Not the case. It takes time. You have to grow, and you have to demonstrate your identity and culture. Then, second point: are they small or big? That's quite interesting because, in general, the companies that are acquired are pretty large. You see that the median is 9 million euros. Is it small or big? Well, in this sector, it's quite big. When we made some sort of map, we discovered that in Europe the average is 0.5 million. But you see that there are a few cases that are indeed two cases where investors found interesting also small companies, exactly 500,000 euro, perfect on the average of the sector. In this case, the companies that were acquired by specialized investors. Okay, so people that investors that were already operating in the sector, were able to cherry pick the most interesting companies to invest in. Well, next step is how was the deal? Of course, we don't know all the information. So we got the information only on 14 deals. Most of them were a full acquisition. So the investor comes in and becomes the only owner, even if in some cases the original owner can also have some role, maybe as as chairman or something that more for communication than for managing. There were three. What is interesting that there were three acquisitions that were acquisition of majority stake, and in few years they became 100% acquisitions. This is a typical, let's say, strategy for reducing the risk. You see in the first 3-4 years if things are okay, and then you put further money on it. 3 remained majority stakes. I don't know if in the future they will develop to 100%. And there is also one that was a minority, and in both cases the original owner has become a co-owner. So what are the reasons that have been pushing the investor to put the money in these companies? Or to put it in another way, why the companies acquired were so attractive for the investor? Is sales growth of the acquired company, the past sales growth of the acquired company, a factor in the deal? Definitely yes. You see that apart from a couple of companies, those for which we have the full financial information, were experiencing before the acquisition very huge growth. In 3 years, 300%, 170%, 250%. So one of the pulling factor was, well, this company are providing the proof on the market that there is an interest for them by consumers. They are fast-growing companies, and so this is an interesting way to attract investments. Well, the other question, of course, is the profitability of the companies was a factor, and you see in the other chart. Well, my answer is not necessarily. You see how many all the statistics that goes on towards the left side of the chart means these companies were losing money. In some cases, they were losing huge of money. The first one, by the way, is there is a reason for that. It was Yves Saint Laurent Beauty, so there was that attractiveness of the Yves Saint Laurent of the fashion brand for it. So, looking at these two charts, the main consideration is if your strategy is to try to sell your company, well, first try to grow. Profits are a secondary point. If you have to take risks or to sell with a small margin or even without margin in order to grow your sales, well, this is a good business card to give to the investors. I'm almost at the end. Well, the real question, the question that reminds the first doubts that I mentioned, that someone put forward about the role of acquisitions is, well, was the acquisition, was the deal impactful? So finally there was a positive impact on the company acquired. Here our sample becomes very, very small because, well, in some cases, as you have seen in the calendar at the beginning, pretty large number of the deals were in the last 2-3 years. So we don't have actually the data for that. What figures on the sales growth of the acquired company tell us? Yes, in many cases you have a big impact, growth being taking off for these companies, but not for all. For some of them, as you see, the 16% here or the 35% there were exactly very similar to the growth they had before. So no positive impact. You see that there are also situations where maybe this loss of identity has been a role with sales going down. Please note there is one, I don't mention I don't give you the name, that lost almost all the sales in 3 years time after the acquisition. Well, let's look at the profits. So we measure the profitability using the earnings before interest and taxes in percentage of the sales, in percentage of the turnover. In orange, you see what happened after the deal, and in blue, which was the profitability before the deal. Well, in this case, I find, generally speaking, that the situation was not good. In terms of profitability, looking at 3-4 years after the acquisitions, the results were not so, definitely not so good. In some cases, I can say that if, for the earlier acquisitions, looking at numbers after 5, 6, 7 years, show a change in an inflection point, let's say, in the curve. So at minimum, we can say that it takes time, a lot of time. You cannot count from the side in terms of profitability to increase your margins in 2-3 years. It takes a lot of time. Well, just to close it, just summarizing what are my impressions. I hope to have from your part some comments on these numbers, just to understand better what the numbers tell us. The sales dynamics are a very important factor to push this fever for deals for acquisition. So considering that, as we also discussed last time in the previous, last year, let's say, these, maybe we are not living the bright years, generally speaking. I mean, as a person, you know, times are quite hard at the moment for many, many reasons. But apparently, for the artistic perfumery, the dynamics of sales is very good. So we can expect in the next year to have to see more small brands or medium-sized brands. It depends on, let's say, from 1 million up, 1 million euros up, that can land on the market. Profits, as I said, of course, can be a factor, but not 100% necessary. In this case, I will say the size matter. We have seen that there are also a couple of small companies, but let's say that generally speaking, you are not selling to the investor just an idea. It is an idea that has been experimented on the market for a certain number of years, and then you can become attractive for the investors. And then, final point, don't expect miracles. Again, artistic perfumery is a creative and cultural industry, like from fashion business to making movies or making music, or even can be similar to the IT sector, but not for this factor here. Why? In this case, the real point is the fact that you need to have a high reputation, and you need to not just to rely on a bright and brilliant idea.
Thank you, Marco. That is one of the points now. Emerging acquisition is a very recent phenomenon. You see how important it is and affecting this business. Now we see some other topics my colleagues will speak about.
Okay. All right. So, hello everyone. I'm Karen Marin. I work with Essencional and Essence. I write quite a bit of content for the Essencional website. And in doing so, I spend a lot of time monitoring the web and looking at forum groups, looking at YouTube, looking at content creators, and also I have built an international network of people that I can call for their feedback on what's happening in the world. So when we present this information, I want you to realize that it's something that's been gathered from many sources, and so I want to say thank you to all the people on this slide: Yosh, Simon, Raul, Lucas, Marina, Talal, Femi, and Eduardo, and others as well. So what we wanted to do is kind of have an idea of what's happening in different aspects of the niche fragrance business. And so we started with the retail landscape and what is happening in the department store business right now. And unfortunately, the answer is generally not a lot. It's not as exciting as it needs to be. And I think that we have very clear indicators of that when you look at closures of department stores, consolidations of department stores. And when you go out into the store yourself and you want something and you want it to be interesting, and is it? So one of the comments here is from Marina in Asia that says retailers are creating collaborations. They're working with different sources, with music, with gastronomy, with fashion, to really create something that gives a broader interest and makes a magical experience for the consumer. And this is definitely echoed in the comment that I have from Raul, who is in the German market. And so there, it's that people want something that's engaging, they want it memorable, they want a reason really to go into the store and to have that experience that's a takeaway that somewhat justifies spending the amount of money that they're going to be spending on these beautiful fragrances. Again, little innovation. So what we do see, though, is that across most regions, the department stores are carving out space for niche brands, but it typically is a brand within, it's a shop within a shop. But then again, the question is it niche, or is it what I don't even know we have a term for? Is it pseudo-niche, where it's brands that were just in the presentation that Marco made, where they've been acquired by big companies that have the funding that can create these shop-in-shops. Because if you look at a lot of the brands that are here today, they're not the ones that have shop-in-shop. But, and I think that Eduardo really nailed it on the head when he said, department stores are trying to have their slice of the cake of niche perfumery. However, they still do not understand the spirit behind this type of perfumery. And that is something that I think people want, that magic, and they're just not at this time finding it in the department store environment. So then the question was, is there a proliferation of single brand stores? Now, I live in Paris, and I can tell you that there's a couple different areas where it's like the perfume street. And you can go from Initio to Parfum de Marly to Byredo to Diptyque, two places like that. But then when I start asking the question of, is this happening around the world? The answer is yes, but really it's in tourist-centric and major cities where there's a sophistication level and a transient clientele, as well as a clientele that is looking for something that's different and that has researched these brands. But when you look at Poland, for example, Lucas told me there's maybe one niche, one single brand store that he knows of in Warsaw, which is Diptyque. Again, it's a brand that has a lot of money behind it now because it's been acquired. Nigeria, another big growing fragrance market, but they don't have the single brand stores yet, but my person, Femi, he says, I see the opportunity and it could be coming. And it should come, but it's not ready yet. So I think we need to be aware of where are these pockets and think of it. In certain countries, there's going to definitely be more. I think in Italy, I mean, you have so many, I talked to Silvio about this and I said, yes, you have Venice, you have Florence, you have Rome, you have Milan. You have many cities where it drives a lot of tourism, and they're sophisticated tourists. So you have this, plus Italy has the history of the perfumery and the culture of using the fragrance. But if you go to another country, Germany, for example, it's not going to be so much the case. So this is something where for brands, I think if they identify what their distribution strategy is, where they want to be, this is something they need to keep into mind when looking at where you want to grow your business. Observations about the consumer. Okay, well, I don't think this is a surprise to anyone, but the consumer is young. So we're seeing that what is wonderful is that we are seeing an interest from a young consumer. So the Gen Z who is looking for fragrance to be part of their identity, to help them with well-being, to be personal and be a statement about themselves. So this feedback came from all over the world. it's a younger generation who's showing a certain interest in fragrance, and this is a good thing because they will become our consumer of tomorrow. So if we can cultivate their loyalty now and get them to understand fragrance and to love it and to have their wardrobe and to experiment, then the sector will continue to grow, as we saw just in the panel before about how fragrance is the biggest section growing right now, which is really dear to my heart since it always was the underdog for so many years. The one thing, though, about the consumer, too, is that they are looking for something unique. That's unique and that not everyone else is wearing, because I do see a lot of comments in forums about, I don't want to wear a certain fragrance anymore because everyone on the street smells like me. Or, you know, the comment here from Yosh that people are over Le Labo and want to find the next thing. I think that a lot of us could probably say that we don't necessarily, I mean, as much as we want the brands to be successful, we don't necessarily want someone else to be wearing our fragrance. But, and certainly not the whole street. But there are places you go and there's fragrances that have that following right now. But I think this is also a good indicator for niche, that there's a consumer out there who's looking for something different and that not everyone has. However, and this from Lucas, I was just telling him that I really agree with him, is that unfortunately, this consumer is not building the loyalty with a brand. And so what does that mean? It means that they're extremely fickle. And if they don't have the loyalty from the brand, they will experiment. And as much as we want them to come back and rebuy the bottle that they bought, they may not. At least what we would want is that they come back to the brand and maybe try something else within the brand. But this is a real call out to brands that it has to be in the marketing strategy of how are you going to build that loyalty. And think about it for yourself when you buy a product that's maybe not a fragrance. And what did that company do to build your loyalty? Did they do anything? What was the follow-up service, the post-purchase service that you got, or did you get any? And this is something that I think, especially in niche, especially at our price points, is something that we need to be sure is part of our overall strategy. So just a few other comments here. I'm sorry, I went the wrong way. Price points. So as I was just indicating, now this was extremely interesting because I do see a lot of feedback in forums, and I see it with content creators, that when fragrance comes out, you know, when a new fragrance launches or a new collection launches, you see the price point. In fact, I just yesterday was talking to someone about the new Fornasetti. So Fornasetti just came out with a collection, and I think the fragrances are each 480 euro, okay? All right, so that's one thing. Price point is not necessarily an obstacle, but it has to come with a full package. So there's got to be a story, there's got to be the quality in the ingredients, it should have you know, a nose, or it has to be an elegant, long wearing that's another thing, but the fragrance needs to really justify that price. And it is difficult, I think, for the average consumer to see a brand that you've never heard of before, that launches on the market at a very high price point, because where is the legitimacy for that? If they can back it up with, okay, you know, I have these perfumers behind me, I have this packaging, you know, my values are sustainability, you know, you tick all the boxes, the chances are going to be better. But again, what we saw was that there was kind of two schools of thought, that price point's not so much an issue, but then it can be, because what happens is their product is still selling, but it's not selling in high units, which somewhat contradicts what we saw with Circana earlier. But I think that we have to remember that was a global study that they did, where this is specific to niche. But I think that you often will see that people will be trying several fragrances at lower price points, which again, that's fine, because it gets them in the habit of building that wardrobe. And that's another thing that we want them to do. So in terms of best practices in storytelling then, so coming off of that topic, the real feedback is be true to who you are, entertain while you educate, be genuine, be authentic. Because the consumer is savvy, and they will know if the story is just made up to create, just to have a story that is to sell. You know, if there's a real founder behind it, there's someone who has, you know, not just, you know, I grew up and I, you know, was smelling flowers in the garden every day while I was 5 years old. I mean, a real story that shows that there's the passion behind it, the research behind it, the history, the genuine aspect of telling your story and being authentic. The consumer will much more appreciate this. And it's also something that whoever you are, you need to believe your story, and the people that are selling your product need to believe it as well. Because if they don't, again, the consumer will see through it. So social media. Social media is a huge topic, again, as we just saw with Circana, that it's driving so much of the interest in fragrance. And one thing that we also see is that oftentimes people are using social media platforms to do their research. So what I mean is they're not going to Google to look for brand information. They'll go on Instagram and look at the Instagram page. And I think that part of it is, one is the attention span, because when you see things in pictures, it's much easier and faster to kind of identify, is this something that looks like I'm interested in it, rather than reading a lot of text. And people just don't have that attention span. They're swiping quickly. I'm sure you all have noticed it with yourselves. And again, if you think of it in context of doing something else, looking for a hotel, looking for a restaurant, planning a trip, you swipe quickly, and the things that stand out are what stand out to you. So same here with our industry, and that social media is a platform that people are using to do their research. Now, TikTok is kind of the elephant in the room, because there are some different points of view on TikTok in terms of, in certain markets, it's really important. I think it's extremely important in the US market, but we're not seeing it as much as a driver outside of that market, which, however, you know, does that mean you shouldn't be there? I don't know. I think what it means is you need to watch it and see if that trend comes over here and to other parts of the world and really drives interest. But one thing we know is it's quick, it's fast, it's fun. I think that the statistic that I saw was there's over 300 million views on Perfume Talk weekly in the US. 300 million views. Now, what are the sales? Are the sales that number? No. So it's driving the interest, and people are getting into the culture. But if you're only thinking about it for driving sales, it's not necessarily what's going to make it happen. It's part of the package, though. So here, the comments really are that the social media is driving the awareness, and it is a terrific way of educating a consumer because it can be fast, but it's really difficult for you as a brand to put something fast together to then communicate to the consumer. Now, some hot topics. Okay, so I kind of got ahead of myself here, talking about TikTok, Perfume Talk, the amount of views. But a couple of very big topics are the clones and dupes, which I think that this is something that it just exploded in the internet about 2 or 3 weeks ago, where there were many, many people posting about some comments that were made that said that dupes and clones actually increase the market. And the feedback really was that it's not, copying is not a source of flattery in this situation, because it's taking away from the authenticity and from the beauty of the product that you're cloning. The only problem, though, is that we saw that there's the young generation and that they are open to buying clones and dupes because of the price point. So this is something, again, that I think we need to monitor this. And I think that, if I were a brand and I was being cloned and duped, I would certainly want to look at that and see how can you counter against this, because it can really take a lot of business from you. And the other thing that I find disturbing, in a sense, is that I see a lot of content creators who review clones and dupes. And so it's almost as if they're condoning them. And that, I think, is something I would want to know who is that person, and maybe have a chat. I don't know. I think this is a lot of what I just said. And one thing too is that the feedback about not wanting to smell like everyone else on the street, because then my fragrance is no longer special. And we want that individuality, and I think this is something that when you go out onto the floor here and you see 360 brands, you can definitely have something unique. That is for sure. Now, last question I think we had was about where, if you were a brand, we asked a couple of brands, where do you see the potential to grow and to thrive? And most of the feedback that we got was singling out the Asian market, specifically Vietnam came up a couple of times, Indonesia came up a couple of times. China is still an opportunity, but now you see a tremendous rise in local brands, so that's something that I think needs to be considered if you want to go into that market. Also, we see the Gulf countries, Middle East, the Emirates. This is a huge opportunity as well. We also see brands from that region that are going international, and I've seen a couple here today, and it will be a topic of a panel that I'm doing tomorrow. So that, in a nutshell, is the feedback that we've had. And at the end of this session, if there's questions, we'll be happy to take them. And now I'm going to turn it over to Chiara.
Okay. This year we decided also to talk about education in schools and job and career perspectives for this industry. We wanted to talk about schools because we wanted to present Italy as a situation in which fragrance school and courses were flourishing. Of course, we have seen after the COVID period an increase of interest in terms of the for the sense of smell. And this drew directly to an exploitation, an escalation of the numbers of fragrance school and courses. We mapped nearly 14 institutions and 62 courses in Italy that we can see are mainly located in the north and central part of Italy. We can say that after COVID, the numbers nearly doubled. As for today, we had a variety of training courses, but the most important message to transfer is, as for today, no school has the aim to train noses and perfumers. We still don't have a course dedicated to scent design. So we ask ourselves if Italy will become a new land for fragrance training. Maybe in the next years, and we want to monitor it. As for now, we have seen that this variety of educational offer comprehend mainly marketing, communication, managerial, evaluation role, and technical role. Just another important thing to highlight is that in the last year, 2023, we have seen the launch of 3 brand new courses, 1 brand new school, and 2 courses that were launched by Fashion Design School. This is a signal of interest of fashion industry in covering also the competencies of fragrance industry. So, the numbers of schools that we have here in Italy is, of course, related to the request of professionals, also in terms of skills that are needed. So we wanted to investigate the perception that companies, always here in Italy, have about their skills and their human resources needs for now and for the future. We wanted to understand more if company wants to employ workforce, if there is an increase of workforce that we can foresee, which are the most requested job roles for the next 3 years, and which are the most preferred recruitment channels. We discovered that around 60% of the companies are going to increase their direct and indirect workforce. The majority of them foresee an increase of about 2 and 4 people, and 20% of our respondents want to employ between 5 and 10 people. They are small numbers, but they are remarkable considering the dimension and the size of the companies that we inquire this survey. About the competencies, we can see that the most important area in which we can foresee an increase of opportunities is the area of communication, digital marketing, and e-commerce roles. That is followed by sales roles, and surprisingly, and this is remarkable as well, we can find a 3rd position for perfumers and evaluators roles. That is followed then by staff roles, like management control roles. They are followed by marketing roles, training, technical roles, and other positions like project management and product managers and regulatory. We ask companies if they are facing difficulties in recruitment. This is something that arose as from my personal and professional experience, since I'm in charge also, in addition to Essencional, to HR and organization for a distributor here in Italy. And normally every day we find difficulties in covering position in short times. So also the other companies confirmed that it is not so easy to cover their vacancies. It may be a situation in which there is a talent shortage. For which areas? Of course, sales areas that are the most requested. Another remarkable point is that difficulties are not related just to roles, but they are related also to the need of knowledge of fragrance sector and also soft skills. Considering the difficulties, we wanted to understand which are the most important recruitment channels to employ people in this industry. And at the first point, we have seen that word of mouth is the most preferred, followed by specialized websites like LinkedIn, Indeed, and Monster. Perfumery schools and courses are following, and it is remarkable here that there is a low adoption of recruitment agencies and headhunters. So, because probably it is the less cost-effective channel respect to the word of mouth, of course, but probably because recruitment agencies, headhunters really know well luxury in general, but they don't know well our industry and the opportunities of employment. We ask companies also what do they think are the professional profiles for which the demand will increase in the next 3 years in artistic perfumery field. And we have seen that at the first point, perfumers and evaluators are the profiles for which we can foresee an increase. And it is a positive increase, especially for perfumers. The communication, digital marketing, and e-commerce roles are stable respect to the 1-year forecast. We can see also an increasing in terms of marketing role, especially brand management, and olfactory marketing. That is an increasing field, considering also the interest of other institutions, art, museum, and retail maybe, that want to enhance olfactory marketing activities. There is a slight contraction of sales roles, but it is not so relevant because we consider that sales roles are always key roles for the companies. This is something that was inquired by our survey, so we can confirm this. In this chart also appear other positions like sustainability specialists that are a trend in general for each kind of company that has a compliance in terms of ESG. Just a couple of considerations to wrap up what we have seen today. When we talk about artistic perfumery and their forecast, that there is an industry with a strong increase in the future, we must take into account that the growth of the industry is possible just when skills that are needed are secured and ensured. And one important thing is to remember that we are kind of a closed-off sector. We have seen it considering the data about word of mouth, and the low level of use of headhunters. And it is really important to find the right balance between the extensive knowledge of this industry that is fundamental, but also the technical skills. having a closed-off sector in a long perspective in which recruitment is just managed between all the acquaintances or all the profiles that are really well known in this industry, can create a risk that there is too much product specialization respect to a strong competencies in other kind of field, like digital competencies that are external to the sector. And this is something that is reflected also when we think about sales skills. Sometimes companies are employing sales assistant, sales advisor, just because they really know well fragrance, but maybe they are not so strong from sales techniques skills. And this is important to remember. The last point, it is a message for companies and for schools. It is crucial to reinforce the link between them, not only in terms of training design, but also considering the career matching, because companies can find a pool of talent and of resources in fragrance school and courses. Another important thing is to remember that when we talk about education, we must take into account that education for our industry is education also of entrepreneur. Entrepreneur, as for today, are present on classes. For example, in Italian Perfumery Institute, there are several examples of entrepreneurs that are attending the executive master. And so it is important to focus the education offer also considering this kind of target that not only needs skills, but also mentoring program in order that entrepreneur can meet up and share their experience and share maybe which are the problems that are encountering today. This is just to provide an overview about employment perspective that is important because when we think about our growth, we must keep in mind that the growth of artistic perfumery is also growth in terms of employment.
Thank you, Chiara. Thank you for your passion. In summary, I will summarize everything in that manner. Investors are growing up, demand is growing up, young generation are more interested in our sector and proposition. It's a matter of fact that we have loyal clients we have to take care of, but in the same time, considering that younger people are discovering, it takes time. It's like a book, the book you read when you are 16, the book you read when you are 30, the book you read when you are 60 is exactly the same book, but you are different. So these guys are selecting, finding, and then they will find the typical ambassador of their style in the perfume. It takes time. They are younger, so we have to consider, fortunately, we have a younger consumer. The elder one grant us to develop the business, but we can increase and find new loyal clients, but you have to invest on them in the proper manner. Education is so important, as you know. We have to promote and training, education, connection with the other art. Everything like that is improving. Demand is impossible that will decrease in the world. So I think that is a positive message. On the other side, as I told when I opened the event, I do recommend to everyone working in that area to maintain a research and development, to accept the risk to propose something that will be a trend in the next 15 years. We don't need simply to make copy. We don't need flanker. We need something else. Unfortunately, we are human beings and capable to create something new every day. So thank you so much and welcome. Leave it, free. If you have a question, obviously we are ready to answer to any question.